The ways they get and go after titles. Seth versus Nakamura. Nia arrives and inserts herself in the title picture. When announcers got respect. And the team of Bobby the Brain Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon. All this and more on Webomaniacs World of Wrestling. Let's see what develops here. Webomaniacs World of Wrestling. Get caught up in the web every Thursday and Saturday here in Webomaniacs World of Wrestling.
You're supposed to meet me out front. It's fine.
And I'm here at your doorstep with the World Heavyweight Championship.
Wow, that's strong, brother. He's got whole Canadian wristbands on.
Sign on the dotted line.
I will, brother.
And surrender the title to me.
Whoa!
Wow! What?
Out of your mouth. We're gonna start out on the right foot. I got something that'll keep you going all day long, Daddy. Don't worry about a thing, brother. This is the eye of the Hulkster, man. You gotta get your head right.
Hulk, not.
This is the only way to go.
We're going to talk about the ways that contenders and challengers go after titles. We're also going to talk about and address the rivalry between Seth frickin' Rollins and Shinsuke Nakamura. And we're also going to address how Nia Jax arrives and inserts herself in to a title picture. As we're going to also be telling you about a time when announcers used to get respect in the business. And then we're going to talk to you about the team, the announcing team, that some may venture to say is the greatest announcing team in the history of the business, and that is Bobby the Brain Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon. So we're going to start out, we're going to talk and tell you about the ways that challengers go after titles. There's various ways you can get a title. And one of the ways a challenger would go after a champion would be, in fact, to do a secondary title run. And what that means is when you take like a world championship, you're going after the world championship, but the next one down would be the secondary title of that industry, whether it's the Intercontinental title, whether it's the United States title, whether it's international title, whatever you'd like to call it. It's a secondary title. So by basically becoming the number one contender is how this is done. And that's why a lot of times certain secondary titles, they'll be called like a working man's championship, or the blue collar title, if you will. And another way that a challenger can gain the championship is none other than attack the number one contender. And usually this ends up in something like a three-way type of match or a triple threat match. In some instances, they'll actually end up in a steel cage, which is pretty cool. Next is the direct attack on the champion themselves. You could badmouth the champion, talk about what he doesn't defend the title or something, or talk about his mother. You know, it gets really shady in the business of pro wrestling, let me tell you. And the other ways, when you're less shady, is to actually have a little dignity about yourself and actually go right up to the champion and ask for a championship match. Essentially, you use an old school mentality of, I did this for you, can you do this for me? And it's kind of the one hand washes the other type of scenario when you go up directly and ask for a title match anyway. And the organization, when they want to really rev it up and get you hooked in, they'll tag you up with the champion in a match, in a tag team match, and something will go down within the course of that match that it ends up in a miscue, or I didn't know what I was doing, or he was there, honest, I swear I didn't mean to do this, that kind of thing. These are the ways that people go about getting championships. Now, in Nia Jax's case, she's going about the attack everybody approach. She's just essentially being a bulldozer, knocking that women's division down. So there's yet another credible way to the title's picture and inserting yourself directly in by means of doing so. But here's where also this will also go under a direct attack on the champion. And as I said, in certain instances, promoters will love to put, for fairness sake, whoever the contender was at the time and who was vying for that championship, you know, they'd give them a free shake. And in some instances, they'll actually give that contender the shaft. We've seen that happen with Bianca Belair. But it's no surprise she wants to take some time off, and because she's been doing this EST thing for quite a long time. And Seth Rollins and Shinsuke Nakamura, their rivalry is happening in the way of a championship match indeed did take place, and all of a sudden there was call for another match, or a rematch as it was, and It used to be within the business that people would always know what they're trying to do, what management's trying to do is get you to the bigger pay-per-view to get that bigger buyout so that you'll actually pay more to watch more, and they ain't going to give you more until you pay. And that's where what Shinsuke is doing is very coy in helping set it up. Used to be Vince would come straight out there and say, "No, you're not having that match tonight. No, we're not going to let it happen in some dump town like whatever." And he'd put the town down, obviously. And the thing about it was, it would always be geared up towards the next big pay-per-view. And that's what Shinsuke's doing. But what spot is he really picking? Is he really going after? Because, for the first time in a long time, they're giving you mystery as to when he would want that shot. Because there's no secret, Seth has a bad back. He's hurt. And Shinsuke knows it. But he's doing this like polishing up fine china. He is attacking him. He is injuring him. He has got Seth to the point now. Seth wants him anywhere, anytime, any place. And now it's in the hands of when Shinsuke actually really wants to go ahead and do this. Because he keeps putting it off and saying, "Nope, not tonight. But when we think of when you think of the ways, like I was telling you, whereas if you go right up and ask for a title match, the rivalry between Claudio Castagnoli, aka formerly known as Cesaro, the Swiss Superman, if you will, and his opponent in AEW, Eddie Kingston, is going at it as in he's doing that "you owe me a favor" kind of thing, but at the same time he's hating his guts because he feels left out. He feels he's not getting that recognition, whereas Claudio, or Cesaro, when he went on to be Cesaro in the organization of the WWE, he had all his fame, and in some instances, some would say that Eddie Kingston is crying over spilled milk because he didn't get the same opportunities that were afforded to Claudio. And Claudio is where he is in the Blackpool Combat Club, and we'll just have to wait and see how that one plays out. That one, I'm going to say, just look for an all-out, drag-out fight between those two. As for Nia Jax inserting herself the way she did, as I said, she bowled over the competition. And then we saw just more recently, we saw Becky Lynch defending the NXT title that she took from Trish Stratton. Kind of a distinguishing thing there, that you just saw Becky go through Trish Stratus, and it ended up in the cage at Payback and all of that. But now you have Tiffany Stratton. It kind of a hard comparison there, you know, or an easy comparison as it were. Is it because Trish would actually all but sound just like with Tiffany, Trish, you know, and the name Stratton and Stratus. I mean, but she just basically put Stratton to waste in that regards. But Nia, not Nia, but Natalya. See how those two sound familiar? Nia and Natalya. Why do I got a feeling we're going to see those two either team up or go against each other for the contendership towards either the NXT title held by Becky Lynch or Rhea Ripley, who got injured due to Piper Niven, aka formerly known as Doudrop. So if you're a Piper Niven fan, and I am, I like seeing her at that Mae Young Classic. If y'all haven't seen the Mae Young Classic, you need to check that out. Go watch that on your Peacock. There, I just gave Peacock its little plug right there. We'll do other plugs in the course of these broadcasts too, or something. I mean, if you got things like products that you want to sell or something, hit me up and I'll actually see what I can do about actually doing like a little sponsorship mention or something. So now we're going to tell you about a time in the business when announcers once got the respect that they deserve. You're not seeing that today. There's always been, and I blame, if I have to give a blame on this, I got to give the blame to D-Generation X for pushing announcers around, such as back in the day, a young Michael Cole, who would get pushed around, and they would showcase how DX was a D-Generation, you know, phenomena. And but when you think of announcers, you think of guys in the business that have gone by, like Gordon Soley, Lance Russell, just to name a few. Then, when you think WWE, you also think of guys like, well, in terms of ring announcing, we know we're talking about The Fink. He introduced everybody so well. And really, other than the time that he actually got in the ring with Coach, boy, that was a good one. Nobody really had any axe to grind with The Fink. But then you get guys that were dubbed icons in the business. And for that, when you're dubbed an icon like Mean Gene Okerlund, he gets that from the recognition by putting the wrestlers in their place. And I would love to see the day return where announcers either pull back the mic, walk off with it, and leave the wrestler hanging. I would just love to see that. But we don't. We get more of the same. The wrestler stands next to the announcer. You know, sooner or later they're going to rip the mic from them, send the announcer off being scared. If I were the announcer on the next time a wrestler ran me off, I would actually, on the next time that I'm on camera, I'll say, I'm doing this under duress, and if the interview's not going to go the way it's supposed to, then they need to take a flying hike or something, because I'm not even going to give them the pleasure of making me look like a fool. I already have ended the segment, and from there, just let it be a little bit of a clip so that the audience sees it, and they'll actually start saying, hey, this guy actually stepped up. And if they want to talk, if they want their piece, if they want their five minutes of fame, if they want their setup for their next opponent or something, let me actually ask the questions that you think you know the answers to. And if they're not going to answer them, then tell them, say, well, I want to see my answers in the ring when you get involved with this guy or something. That's when an announcer can actually regain some kind of respect in this business of pro wrestling. Speaking of announcers, two were none greater than that of Bobby the Brain Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon. And it was only, they've been gone for quite a while here. And of course, Monsoon died. And then it was like Bobby Heenan got inducted into the Hall of Fame, and he said that only one thing is missing, that he wished Monsoon was there. That gives great respect for the dead. And the team of Heenan and Monsoon was impeccable. Some have dubbed it as they were the Abbott and Costello of their time, with Gorilla and his, would you please stop? He's like, are you talking to me? Yeah, of course I'm talking to you. Who do you think I'm talking to? I don't know. You see, it's who, I don't know. It's all of that. They actually think that they had, and they did. They did have a nice run as co-anchors of Primetime Wrestling, which was a hit. And some also loved the fact that Gorilla teamed up and made a good announcing team with Jesse the Body Ventura. To some degree they did, because they talked about older times and times in the ring, because both guys actually wrestled, whereas Heenan, he managed more and wanted to stay more on the outside. Although Heenan was a wrestler at one time, it was a time long before this guy's time or something. I'd have to watch it on the old tapes to actually see Heenan wrestling in the ring, other than the times that I've seen him be made a fool of by the Ultimate Warrior and things like that, putting a weasel suit on him and things like that. But he also got into it with real good with Mean Gene Okerlund. You know, that's where a lot of the respect of, say, a Gene Okerlund came from, as they mirrored each other in that fact. And that's what Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan did for this business. They mirrored each other, but they gave each other the respect that they both rightfully deserve. Many a times you would see Gorilla, you know, call Heenan a disgusting piece of humanity. What a disgusting display you are. You know, that kind of thing. But in the whole reality of it, these guys were friends. They knew what they had to do to remain professional towards each other. There never really was animosity there with each other. Some might even recall the time that Heenan was ousted from the World Wrestling Federation before he joined WCW to co-host on Monday Nitro. And it was there on Nitro that he had learned that Gorilla had in fact died. And following his induction speech, where he actually did say he wished Gorilla was there, it was actually on the very date that the two were thrown together on a September 7th of like 19, I think it was 82 is what it was, on an episode of Wrestling Challenge. Yours truly didn't get the station that Wrestling Challenge came on. I got to see the superstars of the WWE. I got to see I got to see this. I didn't get a chance to see Wrestling Challenge, and I liked when I did see them, and when they came out with Primetime Wrestling, that's when I really loved it, because you could actually see Gorilla getting the best of them. And the term gorilla is not in vain either. In fact, it's honored by the very positioning that they set up as the area when you're going towards the ring, the area in between both management and the area where the wrestlers get in their zone. That is the gorilla area, where management is on the other side just waiting. And we won't be waiting too much longer for our next episode, because this is for Thursdays, but we will be back on Saturday. And we might even do a live. If people are going to tune in, I might do it live. If not, I'll have a pre-recorded broadcast ready to shoot out for you on Saturday. So if you've enjoyed going down memory lane involving both Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Weasel Brain Heenan, I'm Webomaniac. And this has been Webomaniacs World of Wrestling.